Hi and welcome back to Sunday evening with Jan and Duncan. As we do our usual Slater live stream. It's lovely to see you all in here. I hope you're all well. I'm wrapped up, guys. We had a couple of mild days in the week and it was like, yay, yay, daffodils everywhere. I was loving it. But now we're back to winter. So, yeah, out come the warm and fluffy things. So let's say hi to who we've got in the chat. So firstly, I want to say hi to Red Sauce. Hey, how are you? I also want to say hi to David Bentley, who's in Metro Manila. I don't know where that is. But yeah, I used to love geography back in the day, but hey, I'm sure it's in Europe somewhere, I'm sure. We've also got Lisa in the house, hey, and we've got Claire in the house, we've got Kristen, we've got, who else have we got? Quick scoot down, we've got Amanda, who, of course, is one of my lovely mods, and I want to say hi and thank you so much to my lovely mods who do a fine job every Sunday evening, and I'm very grateful to you guys. So we've got an awful lot to catch up on this week. I hope you're all ready for discussion. I see we've got Trish Wood in the house. Hey Trish, hope you're well. We've got Pinky Pup in the house. Hi, and Angela Smith, who's in New Zealand, guys. Lovely to see you here. It's a long way to come, but I hope we're worth it. Anyway, as I said, we've got a lot to discuss this week, so we want to get on with it because I try and keep it to an hour long, but you know, we always seem to go over, and I think one of the reasons is because of this man here, with his cup of tea. he talks as much as I do, which is fabulous for a live stream. So it's our Dunks in the house. So how are you, Duncan? I hope you're well.
Well, I hope you're well. Tonight, I mean, for once, I have an awful lot to say. If I don't actually know which questions you might be putting up there, Jan, but if it's what we talked about earlier, some of them are language type questions. So you're going to have to cut me off at some point because I really could go into great detail on this. So I'm very excited about this. Are you excited, Jan?
Thanks, I'm always excited, and I don't know why. always hyper. Anyway, it's better than the opposite. Okay, so before we start, I have to make Duncan accountable for something. And, you know, we normally like to have a bit of fun over here at some time, but sometimes people have to say, yeah, it's my fault. It's my fault. So Duncan doesn't know what I'm going to be doing, but we're going to start here because Duncan decided that he would, I don't know whether it was baiting, talking about nobody having received any form of communication from these wonderful trolls that we have. And I thought, yeah, big up, Dunks. And then you won't believe what appeared on my doorstep. I got a cease and desist, guys. I got a cease and desist. Now, we're going to read through it quickly before we get on with the questions. So here we go. So, the first one it says, right, for the attention of Jan's viewers. That's me. Why are they coming for me, Dunks? I don't know. And it says it's from Okay Solicitors in Pop Tie Street, Glasgow. Okay, I don't know these solicitors. I googled them, couldn't find them anywhere. Anyway, so it says for the attention of me, cease and desist letter. It says our client, Miss Piehole, has directed us to impose her insane objections to you continuing to post photos of delicious homemade food to your community via your community post section on your YouTube channel. I mean, what? It says harm caused. Right. Intense jealousy, recognition of ineptness, extreme anger and bitterness, and lack of sleep. Okay, so I have to take this seriously though, Dunks, because it's come from a solicitor. Okay, no laughing, all right? No laughing. Right, so then the next bit, it tells me what the required steps are. Okay, I hereby demand, they're demanding, Dunks, that you immediately cease and desist from the following activities. Oh God, this is really worrying, guys. Allowing your daughter to cook scrumptious meals, photographing said scrumptious meals, posting said scrumptious meals to my community, and visiting restaurants. Stunks, what am I going to do? I can't. And photographing scrumptious restaurant meals. I don't. What? But I can't. I've been doing it for years, Dunks. I mean, if you look back over my social media, I'm always post. I can't believe she's done this to me. Anyway, so the failure to respond, I had to pay attention to this because it was signed. So it says you have 7 days to respond to this letter and fulfill the requirements set out in required steps. Okay, all right. If you do not respond to this letter within the specified time frame above, I or my client will be forced to take the appropriate legal actions against you and seek all available damages and remedies necessary that have been suffered as a result of your actions. Dunks, what am I going to do? What am I going to do, Dunks?
I think this was totally expected. And, Okai, the new, will surely be hearing back from you. It's a bit of a reminder of COVID, isn't it? You mustn't go into a restaurant. You mustn't show anyone any food. You mustn't eat in, yeah, to be expected, to be expected. And I'm sure you'll have a reply that'll go up to Okai the new. But yeah, so we have a response. I think that's good, Jan. We have a response. Wasn't entirely what I expected. But that whole, yeah, I think this person needs to be able to fight their jealousy attacks or whatever that first condition was that the person was suffering from. So I think I'll be writing to Okai solicitors, giving them the guideline of how to fight jealousy, because obviously the food isn't the problem. It's the person. The person here is the problem, not the offence, I think.
Yeah, I'm just sorting out the questions, Dunks. So carry on
Good, good.
talking for a little bit longer, okay, while I
Sure,
sort
sure.
them out. Okay?
Yeah, no problem, no problem. What I will talk about very briefly, Jan, is what you were doing, and maybe you still are, with your Looking Back series, because a few things popped up that I'd forgotten about, or to be honest, I'm not sure that I did know about. And when we talk about the Debbie Duncan interviews, there are some answers in there that are not only strange and off, I think some of her answers are answering a completely different question. And that is one thing, once you let me get rolling on one or two of these, Jan, I really want to address. Because when you see or when you listen to Debbie's answer, it seems to be an answer that is to something else, either in her head or she wants to talk about, or but it's not the actual question. That's why I'm excited, Jan. And I don't know what you selected for tonight. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to go off on my own thing anyway. But I want to thank you for doing that going back thing because, yeah, Debbie said a lot of stuff that didn't address what she was actually being asked. So I'm excited about getting into this tonight.
Yes, me too. And I'm ready with the questions. So Duncan sort of gave me a thing. Duncan gives me a few ideas because sometimes the head's everywhere, and I'm like, oh, where shall I go? And I think one of the most important things about doing this, and not only in our own on our own channels, but also when we're doing this live stream, is trying to sort of keep it as tight as we possibly can, because there is so much we can go over, and we don't want to sort of be all over, all over the place, even though I am. But Duncan can keep me on the straight and narrow and sort of say, okay, let's get back to this. So the questions are all ready for you guys. If you've got anything to say, jot them down in the chat, and hopefully, I'll be able to get onto them. So question number 1 we have is, why did Debbie Duncan seem unbothered about speaking to Ayub? Now, I did speak about this. I did I think it was I don't know whether it was a looking back video or whether it was a short, but when she was asked by the interviewer, well, have you spoken to Ayub? Her reply was, no, but maybe in time. When he said, do you want to speak to Ayub? She said, maybe in time. Guys, what does that mean? Maybe in time. It's insane. I'm going to pass it to you, Dunks, because I know you've got a lot to say. Off you go, love.
Yeah, where to start with this? I'll try to be concise. That answer, maybe in time, is another way of saying no and maybe never. Now, if we take that rephrasing of what she basically said, no and maybe never, I don't think there is anyone on this planet, apart from the accident group goons, that would listen to that and say, how that makes sense. How we would all be like, how can that possibly be? This person who, spent the last few hours with your son is obviously key to understanding what happened here. And this is early days. That Sun interview is pretty darn early, because I think it's the same interview where Rach is, stroking her back and saying, we've got to find out who the mystery men are, or whatever. Or maybe it's not, it must be a subsequent interview to that, but it's still early doors. And when she says that, there's a hesitation before it. I don't know if you remember, there's quite a long pause. And my reaction once she gave that answer was, the interviewer couldn't believe it either. The interviewer was like, oh, well, if he were here now, what would you ask? He had to rephrase the question to get something out of her. And then there was a long pause again, and she mumbled something about what would be in their minds, or what did they think was in Jay's mind. It was a nonsense answer. So there was a massive, massive red flag there. And I was thinking about why she didn't want to address that. And the only logical answer is because she knows something that in that conversation with Ayub would reveal something she doesn't want the world to know. So, in other words, what I'm thinking is she gave an answer which was basically, no, I want to keep to myself whatever this guy knows. I don't want it out there in public. But her answer came out as maybe in time. I don't want to go into any more detail than that, but it was such a massive red flag, because in all the other cases you see where, mother, son is missing, and there are no answers out there, the first thing they want to know is from that last person. And they want to know every detail. They can't wait to get answers. But that hesitancy and that very nonchalant maybe in time, oh my. Don't know. I'm going to throw it back at you, Jan. I just think that probably was the biggest red flag for everyone, and especially those that hadn't heard Debbie Duncan speak. It was like, this isn't sounding right at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Raf says here, hey Raf, I hope you're well. Why would you not want to speak to the last people to see your son? I know. And it's like, it's beyond me that other people looked at that video and didn't think, what? This mum's a bit weird. Why would you not? It's been documented, if you like, that Jay was with Ayub and Rocky. They were the last two people. There's speculation that there were a few others as well. But yeah, it's just massive red flags, 100%. Hey Sally, nice to see you. So Sally says this was a very strange response and a complete contrast to Warren wanting them to have a truth serum. Yeah, I mean, yeah. What can I say? It just seems so obvious. And I think the more I see Debbie speaking, the more I'm like, you need to stop. Just stop because you're not doing yourself any favours. So let's jump ahead to the next question, which is what did Debbie Duncan mean when she described phoning the threatening message number back? And if we remember, the threatening message was just as she landed, supposedly, which says you're going to kiss your son goodbye, kiss your son goodbye. And she said, we tried ringing back. Nothing. That's exactly how it went. We tried ringing back. Nothing. There was no, oh my God, we tried ringing back and nobody answered. It kept ringing and ringing and ringing. Or we couldn't get through to the number. There's never any explaining of her actions either. And I think, again, that is red flags everywhere. So, Duncan, I'm going to pass this one over to you now.
Yeah, just before I tackle this one, I want to go back to the previous one because I want to remind everyone that when Debbie was talking about the possibility of speaking to Ayub, that other question came up, something like, well, have you tried to contact him? And her answer turned that around and said, I don't know if he's tried to contact me. And that massive red flag was, what? You are waiting for this guy to contact you to say something? Again, you're the mother of the boy that's gone missing. Why are you not proactive trying to find these things out? And it's been kind of like a pattern throughout this that Debbie doesn't seem to take any steps to find out what is going on. And as it was just pointed out, Warren is suggesting the truth serum. I don't think I've ever heard Debbie suggest any steps that should have been taken to find out what happened to Jay. It's all very, very passive. This whole, I don't know if he tried to contact me. I had so many messages. I couldn't check them all. It all sounds very, very off. Now, getting back to this one, yeah, this was when Camilla Tominey, the Telegraph gal, was interviewing her. And again, how can the interviewer hear the answer, I tried ringing back, nothing, and leave it at that? I mean, the obvious question is, what do you mean nothing? When you ring a number, something happens. You're either going to get a message saying this number is no longer in service, or you're going to get a recording, or the person's going to answer. Nothing. If nothing means absolute silence, then that's good information. We need to know that. But this is an example, I think, where Debbie's answering a different question. And I think the question she's answering here is, what did you do to follow up on this? And her answer is nothing, which makes me think she may or may not have given this number to the police or Mark Williams Thomas. She may have done absolutely nothing because the answer doesn't fit. Anyone, I think, Jan, I'm not being too harsh on Debbie Duncan here. Anyone, I think, when you're asked, when you called the number back, what happened, would have a better answer than nothing. They would say exactly what happened. In this day and age, I'm not a phone person, but if you can see the number, then you've got clues there already. I don't think we ever found out if it was a local Spanish number or if it was a UK number, not for sure. And this is the kind of thing in an interview you would think Debbie, again, would want to talk about. Trying to get information, she would surely say, all I remember was it was a UK number. All I remember was it was, a Spanish number. Called it back. Got a recorded message saying that number is not in service. So you tell me, Jan, I mean, I'm sure you're on the phone more than me. Don't you get something when you call a number? Or is it really nothing? What happens?
Well, I've got quite a new iPhone, and I can actually screen the calls if I don't know them. And I don't know who does it, but I get a message saying such and such person has tried to ring you. So yeah, that's technology for you. Why don't you bother with phones, Duncan? For goodness sake, get with the program. Anyway, I'm going to go back to Claire, and who says Debbie also said she spoke to Jay on the Sunday, but the call list didn't show that Debbie rang him or vice versa. Oh, really? I wasn't aware of that, Claire. That's a really good point to make. So Pinky says perhaps Debbie believed Ayub when he said he came alive and left alive, and she knew from others Jay was with someone else somewhere. Yeah, that's a possibility. Um, I mean, the way Ayub came out with that, well, he left here alive and he came here alive and he left alive. It just sent shivers down my spine. I just thought it was such an awful thing to say. But, I think some of these interviewers, Dunks, they need their heads banged together, and you can't help but think that they must be going by a script, and a script that has been ticked off. Mark, yeah, you can say that, yeah, you can ask this from Debbie, and that's what makes it so infuriating, or one of the reasons why her interviews are just so infuriating. What do you think, Duncan? Do you, I'm guessing, you think along the same lines as me that Debbie is actually censoring these mainstream media platforms?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go back to the Central Club podcast, where we had Cullen Mace interviewing Ayub, the setup there was that in order to get that interview, Cullen had to be really softball, and that's what he was. He didn't really push back on a lot of stuff because he was always, I think, in the convinced that Ayub could just walk away from the interview at any time. And I guess mainstream media is somewhat like that, that if Debbie senses there is going to be any pushback, she just won't do it, or, she won't answer. So, I mean, I think the other problem is mainstream media are on her side anyway, so there's not going to be a lot of pushback. There's two forces at work here. Debbie knowing that the questions will be softball, and the mainstream media wanting everything to be softball. So, yeah, there's no big surprise here, but it's given us a lot of questions. And I want to go back to Camilla Tominey's question because that message actually mentioned G money. And if Camilla Tominey had looked at it and had the freedom to ask any question she wanted, surely she would have asked, well, the message said effing G money. Do you know, Debbie, what G money is? And then we might get an insight into, if Deb, because I didn't know, I don't know what it is. Some people say it stands for, rug money. Some people say it stands for G is a grand, thousands of pounds or euros. I don't really know what it is. G money, effing G money. It could be a mistake. It could be a repetition of the last, G in effing. I don't know. But I would be curious. It was the message that Debbie read. It was the message that Zach read. It was what they photographed. I wonder if Debbie has an idea what G money is. And if she doesn't, again, wouldn't she have found out pretty darn quick from someone that knows and said, my son apparently owes G money. What is that? We will probably never know that. But I don't know. As always, Jan, I'm going to throw it back to you. Do you think Debbie is in the underworld and she knows exactly what G money is? Or is she like me, naive and like, wonder what that is?
God only knows, Dunks. Um, I find it hard to believe that she's actually in the underworld. But I think she was aware of what her son was doing. I'm open to the possibility that she knew exactly why he was going there, and hence maybe feels, even more guilt about the fact that she persuaded him to go. I think there's something that could be looked at regarding that. But I want to go on to a couple of good questions here. One of them from Pam says, I have a question. Jay had M in his call link, but Luggy said it's M for mum. Yeah. I don't know why that made me laugh. For mum, but Dee Dee said in an interview that Jay calls her mother. So how can M be for mum when it should be M for mother, not mum? Do you know what? You've got such a good point that I don't know why I laughed. I laughed, okay, I'll be honest with you. I believe in being transparent. My kids call me so many different names. I haven't got a clue what my name would be on their phone, and I'm going to check. Next time I see my kids, I'm going to check on their phone. Let me see what you call me on your phone, on your call list. And I wouldn't be surprised at some of the things they call me. But yeah, getting back to being serious, yes, it does not make sense why anybody would put their mother down with just a initial. No, come on, just stop it. The next question we've got that I've learnt, guys. I've learnt to highlight the questions I want to go back to. Right, it's from Pinky Pop. Hey, Pinky. So Pinky says Warren has never mentioned if he spoke to Jay on the Sunday, which was Father's Day. Oh, that's really interesting. So it was Sunday that was Father's Day. I would have thought if Jay was still around that he would have at least sent a Happy Father's Day message to Warren. That is such a good point. We need to look at that, Dunks. Right. Okay, thanks for those questions, guys. Keep them coming. Let's go on to question number 3, which was, why would Debbie Duncan describe Chris Pennington as a brilliant man? I would say she's not met very many brilliant men in her life, and for her to call this blob on the landscape a brilliant man is, I just can't get my head around it. I mean, yeah. But in all seriousness, why? What did he do that was so brilliant? Over to you, Dunks.
Right. Well, before we tackle this one, I just want to, as always, go back to the last one. When Sluggy first mentioned, and he mentioned it very, very quickly. He was very quick. Sluggy was to come out and say, "I know that M is stands for mum." I retorted when Sluggy gave that answer. So why don't we see in the call log D for dad, SD for stepdad, B for bro, BU for Buster? Why is it just the mother that is reduced to M? You'd have thought there'd be some consistency here. Why isn't Chris in Jay's call log? BM, brilliant man, you know? Um, don't know. It seems that only mother, dear mother, and there's supposed to be a special bond between them. Remember, there's a special bond between these two. It could be one-way traffic from mother to son, because son, if he's reduced mother to M and thinks that's okay because he's embarrassed to write the word mother in his call log, I don't know. But Luggy insists that M is mother, and that call went through. With Warren, I don't know how close Jay and Warren are. It's possible that maybe a text was sent and there was no call. But if there was, it would be odd if there was nothing at all that day, because I mean Jay is with other kids, so you would have thought Brad, Lucy, Brandon, they would have all kind of reminded each other, oh, Father's Day, better send a message. It is odd if it is true that Jay went all through that Sunday and there's nothing from him to Warren, or nothing from Warren to him. I do think that's a bit odd. And Zach doesn't appear either. I'm not sure how close these two brothers are, but it's the same argument. If M is in there for mother, we don't see anything, it seems, 16th or 17th, the bit of the call log we've seen, Z isn't there. It is strange. It is strange. Now, getting to Brilliant Man, yeah, so we've got two possibilities here. Either Debbie has not followed exactly what this brilliant man has done, meaning all the, harassing lives and all the, swearing and threats and the drunken rants. Either she is totally ignorant of that, which is possible, in which case she does not know this case at all. If we take that possibility as what is Debbie's experience of this brilliant man, then she obviously doesn't know the background to this case. Or she does know all that and still evaluates this guy as a brilliant man, which speaks very, very poorly of her standards for what makes someone brilliant. I can't think beyond those two. You know what I'm saying here, Jen? I can't think beyond those two possibilities. Either she doesn't know the background to the case and what this guy has been saying to people and how nasty, horrible, threatening, vitriolic he is, or she knows it and that makes him brilliant. I don't see how Debbie comes out of this at any future interview. She's asked, what about him is brilliant, that would justify it. But there we go. It was another gobsmacking moment. And I remember Camilla Tomini just basically agreed with her and said, yeah, why would anyone say any different? Why would anyone question this brilliant man? Um, I don't know, Jan, do you remember that interview? Do you remember hearing the word brilliant man and thinking, hang on a second, there's someone in this case we haven't heard of yet. It's some other searcher. It can't be him, but it's him. It's him.
Ah, I'm going to be giggling all the way through this. Oh, God. I can't help but laugh every time I think of Chris Pennington. It just makes me laugh. He reminds me of Mr. Blobby. I keep expecting Niall Edmonds to appear by the side of him. But yeah, it's incredulous to me that anyone would call him a brilliant man. I mean, what has he done that is so brilliant? Please tell us, Debbie. And that's another thing, you see. When she is on these broadcasts, she never embellishes. All right, embellishes. I think most people who speak a language, if they're telling a story, will embellish it somehow. It doesn't mean that they're lying. It means that they're just, making it look a little bit better than it is. Like her referring to this dude as a brilliant man. That's her embellishing. But there's just never any explanation as to how she's come to that idea. And I don't know whether it's a problem with her comprehensive thought processes. Does she have thought processes? I don't know. But what makes it even stranger to me is that there are people that are being paid to interview people, to find out what's going on, to find out the whole story. But none of these people, and we're talking about at least 4 mainstream media news outlets, have ever come back with another question. It's like dunks. I had a look at our video that we did with Sonia Poulton the other day. I just wanted to hear, what we'd said and how it went. And she is a very good example, a prime example of how you interview people, how you address certain things. Okay, you may have to give them a bit of a hint in which direction you're going to or you're going in. But she did it so expertly, and it just I cannot understand how any of these other people that are being paid to interview a mother who has lost her son in such a unusual manner, because it is, whether he supposedly fell off the cliff or not, it's still, fairly unusual, okay? Why these people are not coming back with questions, are not saying to her, well, okay, so you've called, this Chris Pennington a brilliant man. So what, in your opinion, makes him, you know, brilliant to you? That's what I'd say. It's like, and I've never done interviewing. So, okay, Dunks has got his finger up. I better shut up.
I just want to jump in with the moment when she said brilliant man, because Chris was doing his thing from the second week on. So 2 weeks after Jay disappeared, Chris was doing his brilliant searching. And for the longest time, neither he nor Sluggy were mentioned at all. It was as if they weren't doing anything. Debbie had, mentioned she gave special thanks to the Dutch team and the Guardia Civil and the people that went out to search, and it was conspicuous by its absence. We were all like, and, where's the thanks for, Chris and Sluggy, the people that actually found Jay? And it wasn't there. It was an embarrassing silence, and people like me jumped on that. And I think Chris, in particular, got very, very defensive about that. And I think what he did was decide to change it. And I think during the mid-inquest powwow when they all got together in Tenerife, I've just got a feeling Chris said, if ever you get the chance, Debbie, just mention us, put our name out there because, we haven't been mentioned. I really do think that this was prompted because Debbie has um, a way of repeating what is the last person put in her ear. So, as Chris said, if you look out from the ravine, you can see the sea, and Jay would have seen the sea, and he'd have thought, I can get that. Debbie just repeated that when she was asked, I think in the documentary, oh, he could see the sea and maybe he thought he was going down there. So I think Chris has been feeding Debbie and maybe Warren and probably Zach. He's been feeding them. And that's why this brilliant man happened so very, very late in the whole story. But again, very interesting that for the longest time, those two, Sluggy and Chris, were not thanked, were not mentioned. It was like they didn't exist. So that's just my take. Brilliant Man popped up because someone told her, probably the brilliant man told her, could you just put out to the world that I'm a brilliant man sometime? And she did it.
Yeah. Right, yeah. We believe you, Debbie. Anyway, I want to get back to a great question from Sally, who says, where was it that MWT traced this to a guy called Malcolm? Did MWT really know the source, or is this a make-up with the letter DD received traced to a 15-year-old boy in Cornwall? I remember hearing about that. I didn't pay much heed to it. Um, but do you remember that? That Malcolm was supposedly the person that sent the threatening message to Debbie. Had you heard about that, Dunks?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Sally here. I think there's confusion because I only heard Mark Williams Thomas mention this once, and I can't remember where in one of his podcasts or one of his broadcasts. He did say once that that threatening message, the threatening message, the effing G money message, he said had been traced to a guy called Malcolm in the UK that was using a disposable SIM. But that was it. He said it once. And when he said it, I thought, are you sure you're talking about the threatening message, or are you talking about the kid's letter? I think it was handwritten that was sent to Debbie Duncan. Because I didn't know the guy was from Cornwall. I thought he was from up in Lancashire. But anyway, apparently the handwritten threatening letter, abusive letter, I think that was traced to, yeah, some teenage kid. So yeah, I think there might be confusion here because Mark Williams Thomas never said it, as far as I know, a second time. And I don't think Mark Williams Thomas has any idea who sent the threatening telephone message. If he did, he surely would have, like you say, Jan, elaborated and embellished somewhat and given us more information. The obvious question is, if people know this guy Malcolm is responsible, I mean, how many years in prison did he get for that? Or is Malcolm untraceable? I mean, if Malcolm is known to be the person, surely police in the UK have found him by now. So I think either MWT was confused or he put that out there hoping to dampen everyone's questions about who's the author of the threatening message. But I have a feeling that person was never traced. But I don't know.
Yeah, you've jogged my memory there. Um, it was about the actual letter, which I have seen. And you know what? When I saw it, yeah, I mean, you know yourself, you've worked with students, and that writing on that letter did not appear to be a 15-year-old boy's writing. That's what I'll say. If it is about the letter, then I would be very, very shocked if that was the handwriting of a 15-year-old boy, in my opinion. And I've worked with many 15-year-old boys who have written, and yeah. Was he referring to the phone call? I don't know. And the other question that keeps bothering me is, okay, so supposing somebody did send that letter to Debbie, where did they get her address from? Where did the 15-year-old boy get the address from? And also, if all these trolls that Debbie's being attacked by have sent these threatening messages to her via her phone, where are they getting her phone number from? I don't understand that. I wouldn't have a clue. If I wanted to contact Debbie Duncan, which I don't, I wouldn't have a clue how to do it. And, I'm quite okay with the computer. I'm quite good on my phone. And, yeah, none of it makes sense at all. So the other question that I've highlighted here is Ayub said Debbie and family should link hands because you never know what arguments they are having in house. Arguments? Yeah, I mean, we've touched on that before. Maybe we can save that for another video. The dynamics within that household. I think that would be quite an interesting topic to chat about. Duncan, what say you?
Yeah, that's a massive subject, and again, a very odd moment when during that interview when Warren was in was on Tenerife and he was asked something about Lancashire police getting involved, and his answer was Debbie's in charge. It was like, but you're the father. What are the dynamics here? Um, for what reason does Debbie get to decide who answers what question? That whole thing was very and Zach in the background looking like, oh, I can't say anything. I'm just the brother. I don't know what the dynamics are. We would be speculating aplenty, Jan, if we tried to go and analyze that. But I think it should be done because again, it doesn't seem normal, does it? Debbie now is the only one with Jay's Law out there. It looks like Zach and Warren have just disappeared. These are very odd dynamics. They really are.
Indeed. So let's now move on to question number 4. Why would Debbie Duncan diminish Tom Hilton's serious head injury? I kind of can answer that, kind of, in that I think she's just protecting her son. Okay, she's trying to protect her son. Okay, as a mother, I can understand that. But what I can't understand is how, when you protect a child who does something so violent, how is that teaching that child about accountability? How is that making the child realise that you cannot go around battering people to a pulp? It's just not on. And I feel we're going back to the mothering thing again, which I don't want to get involved in this live stream. But I do feel that that was part of the issue. That is part of the issue with Debbie Duncan and her son okay, that she, even after we've all read, we've all heard that her son battered or was involved with a group of youths that battered another boy nearly to death, that she could just turn around and say, oh, it was just a gash to the head. And Jay wasn't even, he may not have been involved, he just happened to be there. I'm sorry. I think that is prime example of a mother abling her son. So I'm going to move on because otherwise I'm going to get in big trouble again talking about what I think is fundamental in the disciplining and bringing up of young children. Here we go, Dunks.
What interests me about the whole gash thing is that Jay, according to Debbie, wasn't involved with that. Her whole story was that Jay was on the periphery. He was witnessing this. He never did any attacking. Jay was not machete man or knife man or hammer man or golf club man. He wasn't doing that. So if Jay wasn't involved, according to Debbie, what's the big problem saying Tom Hilton's skull was cracked open and he nearly died? Because Jay didn't do that. So to me, when she says Tom Hilton got a gash to his head, she really is prepared to not only underplay everything that Jay has ever done, but also his fellow gang members. Do you see where I'm going with this? If Jay wasn't involved, she should have been fine with just being honest and saying, yeah, what happened to the boy Hilton was absolutely horrific. I mean, the guy nearly died. And she could have said, I'm just proud that Jay, even though he knows those people, he had no part in it, even though he was, convicted. So I don't know again where Debbie is going with this. If she really thinks that that attack could be reduced to a gash, it tells me that just she just can't handle some hard truths. She has to diminish everything that could be related to Jay as something very, very minor. Um, and again, that going back to the toxicology report when she absolutely broke down in tears, I think that was a moment when she realized she can't diminish this. The toxicology report is the toxicology report. Here's the truth. And I think she cried, she wept at that moment because this nothing she can diminish there. That's the science of it. So yeah, I don't know. Anyone that calls that a gash is living in La La Land. But she said it.
Yeah, she did say it, and also, once again, she was in a safe space where she knew she wasn't going to be questioned. I mean, I'd love her to come on this live stream with us, and we would be polite because we are polite people, and there's just certain questions that I would love to ask her in a in a polite manner and try not to lose my temper with her. I don't know whether that would happen. I don't know whether that would happen with you either, Dunks. But yeah, it does seem okay. You can be a mama bear and want to protect your children, but at the end of the day, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, then it's a duck. Yeah, I know, Rosina. I know, honey. Pigs will fly before that. Yes. Okay, so let's move on to the last of the questions. Why would Debbie Duncan applaud Lucy May Law for her actions? Which I think, again, is quite similar to the previous one where we were asking why would she call, Chris Pennington a brilliant man? So, what Debbie said in the interview was she did the right thing. Did she though? Did she? I think we'll ask Duncan what he thinks.
Well, yet again, we have two different versions. The early version, first interview from Debbie was she questioned what Lucy did or didn't do. She said, If only she had just gone there. I would ask Lucy why she just didn't go to where Jay was. She did ask that. And then again, we've got this transition. We don't know what happened, who spoke to who, what the deal is, but Debbie did a 180 and came out with that she did everything right. Well, that can't be. The facts of the matter are at 8:50, according to the narrative, at 8:50 a.m., Lucy was talking to Jay, and the phone cut off. At that point, Jay's still alive. No water, no phone, but he's right by the road. So at 8:50 Monday morning, Jay's alive, right by a road. A few hours later, a couple of hours later, Jay's dead at the bottom of a ravine. And the conclusion of the mother to that dead boy is that Lucy did everything right. That cannot be her honest opinion. It just can't be. And this is why it is baffling that she could come out and say that. I mean, obviously, I don't know any other mother in the world that faced with that reality. You were the last to speak to him. You knew where he was. 2 hours later, he's dead. I mean, the thought must come to Debbie Duncan. Why didn't you call an ambulance? Why didn't you call the police? Not to say he's missing, but to say he's dying. I mean, all of these things that someone younger than an 18-year-old would think of doing, I just don't understand how Debbie's explanation of what went wrong with Jay is that it's nothing to do with Lucy. Reporting him missing and not going to where he was the right thing to do. I mean, heaven forbid, if Zach were in exactly the same position that Jay was in, and Debbie was down in Los Cristianos and just spoke to Zach, is she saying that the best thing to do for Zach in that situation is to not go there and report him missing to a police station? Would Debbie do exactly what Lucy did? Well, of course not. So it can't be that what Lucy did was the right thing. I mean, this is just stupidly absurd, isn't it, Jan?
Oh, absolutely. And, God forbid, we don't know what we would do in, emergency situations, especially if we're teens, we're out there, we're having a good old time. I'm trying to think if how I would have acted when I was 18. I don't know, but I feel that my first port of call would have been to have tried to get there. I mean, that's the immediate thing you do. It's like even if you lose a child in Tesco, you're going to be running around looking for that child. It's a mother's instinct. It's an adult instinct. It doesn't have to be a mother's instinct. It's you go to where you last saw them, and it's like even if it's a silly analogy, but if you put something down at home and you can't find it, and you're wandering around everywhere trying to find it, it's always the last place that you were. So isn't that ingrained on our brain? So I cannot understand the hesitation of any of these people who are supposed friends of Jay Slater to not even want to go and look for him. Where is the footage of, Lucy, Ayub, Brandon up in the mountains looking for this boy? Where is the footage? None of us have seen it. And even when Lucy took the time to do that video with her back to the camera, but did she then say, right, well, I'm going off now, I'm off to go and see if I can find him, me and my friends, because I've got lots of friends here in Tenerife, we're all going to go off and we're all going to look for Jay? No, we never saw any of them doing it. So I have no idea why Debbie Duncan would applaud Lucy May Law for her actions, because she did nothing. And I can't understand how Debbie would not see that. I mean, really? What did she actually do? And that's, again, it's just questions that we need to ask her, Dunks. But I don't think we're ever going to get the time to do that. So let me have a look at some of the comments here. So Sally's put, Dee Dee was quite critical of Lucy Law in the Sun interview. Then it was a different story by the documentary. Oh, right. Was it in the documentary that she said, oh, well, I would have preferred it if she'd done it a bit sooner? I should bloody hope so. The boy went missing on the, supposedly, the early hours of Saturday or Sunday morning or Monday morning. It was, I can't remember how long it was afterwards. How long was it afterwards before Lucy then phoned Debbie? Can you remember that, Dunks?
Yeah, Debbie received the phone call from Lucy at 3:30 in the afternoon. So there is a 6 hour gap there. And even at 3:30 in the afternoon, no one had gone to where Jay last was. In fact, no one actually went there at all. What we heard is that Ayub says that that night, Monday, I mean, make sense of this, nighttime, you can't see anything. But Ayub says that Monday night they went up there and shouted out, Jay, Jay, and started looking. So the crazy thing is, I mean, crazy but true, had Debbie been told at 9 a.m. where Jay had gone missing, if Lucy had called Debbie immediately and Debbie had gone to Manchester Airport and taken a flight to Tenerife, and from Tenerife Airport got a taxi to where Jay was last heard from, Debbie would still have been the first person to go and look for Jay where he was, reported missing or where he last was by hours. This is unbelievable to think that had she physically had Debbie gone immediately that Jay was reported missing, she would still have been the first person to actually go and look for him. This is just unbelievable. Um, and then Debbie says, yeah, Lucy, as far as I can tell, Lucy did everything right. It's a different world that these people live in.
I keep saying that. And while I set up the final bit to this live stream, where's the one that I did? Oh, yeah. So we've got a comment from Selena. Hi, Selena. And she says, I don't believe a little French bulldog climbed on a table and chewed the passport up. Nice dogs, but not the brightest. Yeah, yeah, I never believed that story either. And I think, excuse me, I was thinking earlier, Dunks, I want to look closer at the possibility that when Debbie does her spiel, when she says, oh, all these horrible people online, they're all so horrible to me. And when she comes out with certain things, I think she's actually talking the truth in as much as she wants to debunk that as soon as possible. Does that make sense? So when she's saying that bit about, there's people putting videos up of him in a nightclub and he's bending down and they're saying he bent down to pick up a bag of drugs, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, Debbie, we need to look at that. We need to psychologically analyse why she is picking on certain aspects. And I think it's purely to debunk them. And I think, excuse me, I don't know whose idea it was to come up with the French bulldog eating the passport. I don't know whose idea it was, whether it was hers or whether it was the producer's. But I didn't believe one word of that. So, Dunks, while I set up the final bit, what's your say on that? Are you a dog lover? I've got cats, and I'm going through my jigsaw era at the moment. So I've got it all set up on a little table. One of my cats has decided she's now going to sleep on that table. So every time I leave the room and come in, she's on there and there's all bits of my puzzle scattered all over the room. I'm not a happy bunny. The cat needs to move out. Pronto. I've had enough. So anyway, Dunks, what do you think about the dog eating the passport?
I mean, I could believe it if it were a dog that had done such a thing before, and as the commenter pointed out, if it was tall enough to get onto a table. But it does seem a little odd that this little dog, for once in its life, decided that the passport that had been on the table for 2 days suddenly was the thing to chew on. You know, it's not a puppy. Puppies chew anything. Um, yeah, I mean, if someone had asked Debbie, could you come up with the most absurd explanation for why the first passport became unusable, she'd win a prize for, oh, dog ate the passport. But no, it doesn't sound right at all. But it made me think, I wonder what the real reason was for that first passport becoming shredded, unusable. Um, I don't know. Dogs do like to chew, but it seems like this one, of all the things at ground level, that could have chewed, there was nothing at ground level. And then maybe as a challenge, it thought, what's the highest point I can get to in this room to chew something that isn't, particularly chewable? I don't know, some kind of doggy challenge. And Buster did it, but I would have thought 1 in 100 chance that Buster could pull that off. On a serious note, I wonder what the real story there is. If Buster wasn't at fault, I wonder if, I don't know, Jay did it, or someone else didn't want him to go. I don't know, a bit of an untold story, this. And it does seem a bit of a coincidence that we know Jay wasn't madly enthusiastic about going. First passport arrives, and maybe Jay mistimed it. Maybe he didn't know that you can get an emergency reissue passport, and Debbie caught him out and said, no, we can still get one in time. If Jay didn't really want to go, he should have left it to the last 24 hours to either let the dog eat it or, tear it up himself. Very, very strange story. And I don't think we'd heard that before. I think, was that in the documentary, and that was news to us? We were all like, "Oh my God, didn't know that." Yeah, it was another one-hit wonder from the documentary. Never mentioned before, never mentioned after. All right, that's another detail that we never knew about. No, just sounds very strange.
I remember seeing something about the statistics of what people claim insurance for, or which is a bit more familiar to us, why kids have not handed their homework in. And one of the main things was my dog ate my homework. So whoever came up with that idea, yeah, like, we're not going to believe it. I'm sorry, but yeah, no. Never in a million years. So, come on, my computer's playing up. Right, we're just going to finish off with this, and I'm going to hand it over to you, Dunks. I'm going to let you. This is our Troll of the Week. Da, 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 da. I'm going to leave it up to you this week. I haven't got anything prepared, but I thought this was quite a good backdrop so that everybody is fully aware of these trolls. So I thought I'd leave it up to you to pick your troll of the week, Dunks. Okay, off we go.
Um, I'm going to have to pick someone that we haven't picked, so I'm going to pick the name of the one that's probably most unfamiliar to people. And actually, I don't know much about her, or even if she is a her. Jill Parkinson. Jill Parkinson. Um, I've exchanged a few words with Jill. I believe Jill is a Surrey person. That's neither good nor bad. I'm just trying to remember what I know about Jill. She pops up every now and then, disappears for periods of time, but I can't recall anything specifically, I don't know, shocking or alarming that Jill has said. Have you got something has she picked on you or not?
Stop bouncing it back to me. You said it would be nice if you give me the chance to pick the troll of the week, and now you bounced it straight back to me. Um, I don't know. I don't go looking. I do see things. People send me things that people have said. Has she said anything about me? I don't know. I don't know. Don't care,
Don't know.
to be honest. But yeah. Well, that went rather well. Thanks for that, Dunks. Um, Cowardly custard. I think the main ones we're all very aware of.
Yeah.
And what I will say to you guys, if you are being trolled, doxed, abused, harassed by any of these people and all their other little minions that are yeah, that need to be fumigated, then just screenshot what they're saying and pass it on to your local police. Trust me, it works. Okay, so on that, okay, let's see. Let me get in here. My mouse doesn't want to play with me, guys, and I don't know why. Probably because I was talking about the cat. Right, I saw something here. Someone said about Thomas Wilson. Yes, what a nasty, hateful individual this young man, well, young man, this person is. Yes, I understand he doxes my family left, right, and centre. And he will, yeah, he will face the consequences of doing that. That's all I shall say. So Claire has put here Thomas Wilson putting out postcodes out there. Yeah, disgusting, disgusting. So what I will say to us as a community, if people are sharing information that you've not personally put out or aren't even on YouTube or they're putting this information out in order to harass and intimidate. Just take screenshots, guys, and pass them on. Pass them on to the police. That's the best thing to do. Rightio, let's get rid of that now as we say goodbye to everybody. Dunks, is there anything else that you want to say as well as saying your farewells?
Yeah, I want to go back to the very first question that you put up, and you might not want to you might not want to answer this, Jan, but I'm going to answer it. That message, the threatening message that Debbie got, arrives at the airport and kiss goodbye to your son. She says she called that number and nothing. I would not have called that number. I would have gone straight to the police and said, look at this, here's the number. What do you want to do with this? But I did also say, Jan, that I think you're the motherly type that couldn't hold yourself back from calling that number. Am I right that you would have, without thinking, just called that number? Or would you have been cool, calm, and calculating like me and thought, no, I don't think that's what should happen here? You would have just called the number.
100%. 100% I would have called the number and I would have traced it. I'm sorry, I've got cat wars going on. I've just let I've got one cat out there, another cat here. They don't get on. So yeah, cat wars. Of course I would have phoned that blooming I would have traced it. That yeah, 100%. It's insane that all these things that have happened to Debbie, and it's like, well, what did you do about it, Debbie? Uh, uh, it's like, come on, wake up, woman. Anyway, back to you, Dunks.
Yeah. So I'm in a minority of one on that, that I obviously would have kept the phone number. I would not have called it back. I would have gone immediately to police and said, "You need to handle this," just because you're not sure who you are dealing with there. But I get it. From the mother's perspective, yeah, just call it back immediately and try to find out what you can. All right. No, we've gone through a lot, but there's a lot more to go through. And I do like that idea, Jan, about having a think about the dynamics of the family involved here. It is a very strange setup. Um, let's end it there. But yeah, thanks to everyone for again contributing, commenting, all the mods, etc., etc. Are we on for next week, Jan? My week is fairly empty. What about you?
Oh, next week I think is Mother's Day, isn't it? Is it Mother's Day? I think I'm being wined and dined by the offspring. But I think I could still probably do it. But maybe push it back an hour. How does that sound?
That's whatever works for you, Jan. It may be that we have a lot of mothers that would also be away next week. It might be a week to miss because you don't know what's coming up. The offspring might surprise you. You might be jetting off somewhere for a week's holiday. You don't know what's going to happen, Jan. So I would think it might be a week to skip, and we can work on a bumper production for 2 weeks' time. Just an idea.
Yeah, let's do that just in case. Because I
Just in
know
case.
if I dare say to the kids, oh, well, I'm going live a bit later, they'll be like, what? We don't come before your YouTube channel? So, yeah, let's give it a break for a week, guys. And, yeah, and we'll do a bumper one, as Duncan says. Oh, Duncan does. Have you noticed, guys? Don't listen, Dunks. All Duncan does is just pass everything over to me. It's like, what? What are you doing, man? Anyway, did you say goodbye to everyone, Dunks?
I did not. I've blabbed a lot and I've passed things back as I like to do. So I will say goodbye, everyone, and yeah, thanks for joining us. Mental note: 2 weeks from now, we will be back with the bumper edition of What is Going On with the Duncan Slater Family. Okay, bye bye.
Yes, 100%. So if you are mothers, enjoy Mother's Day. If you're not, I feel, I know some people hate it. It's a bit like Christmas, isn't it? Some people hate it because horrible things can happen. But just if you can't enjoy it in the same way that some mothers can, then just spoil yourselves for the day. Okay, it's just a day, and I look forward to seeing you all in next week, the week after that. So I want to say thank you so much to all my mods. You are absolutely wonderful. And I want to say thank you to everybody that's chatting away. I'm loving our little community. And also to the people that are clicking on the video and watching it on the playback. You take care of yourselves out there, guys, because trust me, it's a rotten old world. So until the next one, bye bye for now.